Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Epic Universe construction update. If you're unaware, Epic Universe is a brand new theme park coming to Universal Studios Florida and is currently set to open in 2025. In the last few updates, we've seen progress on multiple land entrances being installed, ride testing happening, and progress made in just about every area of the park, including the beacons for what most of the lands have installed on top of the entrances, which we will take a look at today among all the other progress we have to check out. Epic Universe is located just 2 miles south of Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida, and this new theme park will include brand new lands including How to Train Your Dragon, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Universal Monsters, and my personal favorite, Super Nintendo World. So in today's update, we are going to get started over in the Dark Universe to check out the progress in this area, so let's get to it. Now, we've seen in recent videos the entrance portal for the Dark Universe being unveiled after being covered in scaffolding for months, but work has been ongoing with theming and further details on this entrance portal. And in this week, the entrance beacon, I don't know if that's the official name for these things, but that's what I'm going to call them, has been installed in multiple lands, including the Dark Universe. Now, it looks to be a coil similar to what we have seen in the Frankenstein movie, so we're going to assume that is what this is representing. We've also talked in recent videos about all the trees being planted around this land and really the entire park. But over the holidays, there was a tropical-like storm that came through basically all of Florida, and it seems that some of the trees that were planted at the Curse of the Werewolf roller coaster have fallen due to the storm that came through. Though some trees were knocked down from the storm, we can see just how many trees have been added to the area, and it is quickly becoming a forest as part of this attraction. And at the coaster, we can see at 1, roof shingles that are in progress. We can also see that this roofing style matches a small building next to the Dark Manor as well. At 2, we have scaffolding recently removed in this area, and it's believed that this area where the scaffolding came down will be full of themed tents. And in this shot over at the Curse of the Werewolf roller coaster, we can see at 3 what seems like a curved wall that will be along the queue pathway. And looking at the main station of the Curse of the Werewolf roller coaster, we can see at 1, scaffolding over the track. At 2, we have a mix of temporary and permanent fencing at the track, as the temporary fencing is needed for ride testing. And 3 is lighting for nighttime ride testing for like what we saw in the last video over in the How to Train Your Dragon land, as there was nighttime ride testing for the twirling dragon ride. Over at the Dark Manor attraction, here we can see the extended queue for this attraction, and what looks like a fountain and a small building have started being constructed here. And on the front of the Dark Manor, we can see some stone wall theming in the entrance to the queue that is coming along nicely. And here's a great view of more wall theming around the Dark Manor, as it's supposed to resemble a masonry wall with jagged objects on top, almost like a medieval barbed wire fence of sorts, sending the message that people are supposed to stay out of this area. But of course, this is a theming element, and they really do want people to come in this area eventually. Here we can see the show building for the Dark Manor attraction, but guests won't be able to see the building once completed, as there will likely be trees or some other theming element blocking the view from the guest perspective on the ground. And over at the Burning Blade Tavern, we can see some progress on the building and the windmill tower. And an aerial look here at the trees that have been recently placed on the tiered hillside over at the Burning Blade Tavern as well. And taking a look at construction of the village in the Dark Universe, we can see most of this area is still under heavy scaffolding, but if we zoom in, and at the center and left are details of stone walls peeking through. And here in this shot, we can see more scaffolding and theming work in the village at Dark Universe. Well, that's going to do it for the Dark Universe, but let's take a look over in the Wizarding World to check out the progress in this land. Now, we had talked in previous videos how the beacon for the entrance area for the Wizarding World was rumored to be a hand holding a wand, and it seems that these rumors were indeed correct, as the beacon for the Wizarding World was installed this past week, and it was indeed a hand holding a wand. And not only was the entrance beacon installed, but it looks like we have the beginning of another colorful pattern concrete area outside the land, just like we've seen be built over at Starfall Racers. So this seems to be a theme we are likely to see in each land. And in fact, if we take a look at the concept art, we can actually see these pattern concrete areas represented in the concept art. So this is likely something we were going to see in many parts of Epic Universe. Now here in the background under the scaffolding is the copy of the, I think I might have it this time,
Right.
Port Saint-Denis in Paris.
Could be worse.
Which looks like the theming is nearly complete, so that is likely to be unveiled in the coming weeks, hopefully. And we can also see in the exit from the land on the pathway at the left. Now on the entrance portal to the land itself, we can see some of the details showing through, which looks to be a sort of dial of some sort perhaps, but this is also something we will see in other entrance portals as well. So this could be an overall theming aspect for Epic Universe and not something specific necessarily to the Wizarding World. Now, while most of the land is still under scaffolding, we are starting to see glimpses of the theming shine through. And here we can see weathering theming has been painted on a Paris-style roof here. Well, that's going to do it for our tour of the Wizarding World, but let's go check out the land myself and many others are looking forward to, Super Nintendo World. Now, over at the entrance portal to Super Nintendo World, we can see at 1, concrete forms for a garden wall, and at 2 is trim mold theming being placed. In another view of the entrance portal, we can see at 1 and 2 concrete walls in progress. At 3, we have the exit from the land, and at 4 are more of these octagon-shaped foundations we've been seeing in other areas of Epic Universe that we are unsure of what these are for. We can also see more theming on the entrance portal itself, and looking at the entrance portals for Japan and Hollywood Super Nintendo Worlds, the one in Epic Universe is shaping up to look a little bit different, but we are likely to get the star-themed concrete pattern in some way here as well, would be my guess. Here at the restaurant and store that will sit just outside the entrance portal, we can see the progress that has been made here. Now, some have asked why this is outside the land, and it is likely because if the land is closed for capacity or a private event, that guests can still enjoy Nintendo-themed elements and, of course, buy merch, eat food, things of that nature.
I mean, they're selling merch.
Now, over at Yoshi's Adventure, we still have the temporary fencing around the track, which just struck me when I was doing this again today, is likely for the ride testing purposes of this attraction. But it seems like some of the cars have been uncovered that are sitting on the track. Now, it's hard to tell in the pictures, but they look like they're still wrapped in plastic, but they do have their fabric covering removed, so we can see a bunch of Yoshis, which is pretty cool. In this image, we can see at 1 we have the portal to the escalator that will take guests up into Peach's Castle, and that is how people will enter the land, which is through Peach's Castle and then walking into the multi-level land. At 2, we have scaffolding recently placed over at Bowser's Fortress, and at 3 is the progress on Mount Beanpole. And here's a closer look that we can see on the scaffolding for Bowser's Castle, which for those that are unaware is also the entrance of the Mario Kart attraction. And over at Peach's Castle, we have recently cast concrete, and this area is likely to be the mushroom-themed colored concrete we have seen in the other Super Nintendo worlds. And heading over to Donkey Kong Country, and I'm just going to start calling it that because that is likely the name of this area, given that is what Japan's is going to be called as well. We can see on the Donkey Kong coaster recently added supports on the roof of the main show building. And if we look at the concept art, this is likely for the area on top where we have the waterfall and then coming out of the mouth of a donkey. That is going to be probably what this is for. And this is a great look at some of the large brick theming on the temple area of the Donkey Kong coaster as well. There is some new scaffolding along with framing and wire formed for the likely splashdown area of the coaster, and we can also get another good view of how the Mach 2 rail track system will work on this ride. And like we've mentioned before, this unique roller coaster actually utilizes a side track, and it will simulate jumping over gaps in the upper track, just like you did in the Donkey Kong Country video game, where this ride gets its inspiration from. And here is the current status of the work for the waterfall that will be a main feature of the Donkey Kong roller coaster, which is likely to be called Minecart Madness. Now that's it for Super Nintendo World, so let's head over to the Isle of Berk to check out the progress in the How to Train Your Dragon land. Now, like most of the lands in Epic Universe, the entrance portal had its beacon installed recently as well. We have some breaking news that may also come to a shock for many of you.
Channel 4 News at 6 o'clock.
The beacon for this land is in fact a dragon. I never saw it coming personally.
That's the kind of shot that gets you to the top of network news.
Taking a closer look at the entrance portal to the How to Train Your Dragon land, we see these indexes or notches like we saw over in the Wizarding World. Now it seems this is going to be a theme that we may see in all of the entrance portals, probably except for Super Nintendo World if I were to guess. There's also a smaller ring at the very top we can see as well. Now this is kind of a cool image as the bay in the land is now filled with water, and here we can get a look at where the How to Train Your Dragon coaster dives under the bridge but gives the illusion that it is diving into the water from certain angles. And we have some stairs and a dock that have recently been added to the bay over here near a sculpted concrete Viking ship. Now we're assuming this ship will have more theming work done on it, but with the water in the bay, it'll be kind of interesting to see how they go about doing that. And in the latest update, we saw some ride test footage of the pair of spinning dragon rides, and we do know there has also been some ride testing happening during the day as well. Now it doesn't look like much other progress has been made over here, so not much else to report on for this ride. And over at Mead Hall, we can see the status of the exterior theming, and the theming element above the entrance has also made a lot of progress. It's still unknown what this is likely to be, so we're guessing it's either a perched dragon or some sort of dragon element here, but of course it also could just be a simple Viking symbol. If we look at another angle at Mead Hall, we can actually see there's rockwork chips in the shape of a Viking, so we can assume there will be a Viking in the wall here. And over at the How to Train Your Dragon coaster, we can see rockwork at the second launch, as well as progress on a quick service food area in the foreground. And in another angle of the second launch of the How to Train Your Dragon coaster, we can see the rock theming is still well underway in this area, and this will be a kids play area in the center here. Now jumping over to the first launch of the How to Train Your Dragon coaster, we can see the progress on what is likely to be a barn scene that guests will be taken through. Now this ride will work a lot like Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure over in Islands of Adventure, where guests will be taken through various scenes and show buildings throughout the ride. At the land's boat ride, which is rumored to be called Fire Drill, we can see a roof is being added to the main loading and unloading station. And here we can see the path that the boats will take on the ride. Now the concept of the ride is that it is a slow moving, family friendly boat ride where guests can aim water cannons at targets and likely other boats to get them wet. And if this is like other similar rides we've seen, more than likely guests on the outside watching the ride will be able to shoot water at guests on the ride as well. All right, that's going to do it over here at How to Train Your Dragon. So let's head over to the park center to check out Celestial Park and the progress over here. Looking over at the dual racing coaster called Starfall Racers, we can see the colorful patterned concrete at the entrance of the ride is coming together nicely. With the storms over the holidays, we were able to get a bit of a glimpse of what some of the water features will look like as they have been filled with rainwater. Now obviously the water in here will not be brownish, it will be very clear, but it kind of gives you an idea of what these will look like and how they have cascading features. And really, it's something about this park that I'm really excited for, is this central area with all these water features and what that will look like. Whatever work was going on the surface of the large show fountain in the last update seems to be finished, as there is no more pink areas on the floor that seemed to be working on last time. And this is a good look at the kids' splash pad area that will be adjacent to the large in-park water fountain. Now there isn't much more to report over here in Park Center, but let's take a peek over at the Epic Universe entrance area to see the progress over here. Now at the park's entrance portal, the concrete forms are actually being removed from the casting as the concrete has cured, and we can see the rebar on the top, which will be used for theming elements above it. And zooming out a little bit from the park entrance, we can see how the entrance portal will look with everything around it and how it compares to what we were shown in the concept art. Of course, changes are expected when it comes to concept art, and the final look of things, but it looks like the entrance area is going to differ a bit from the original concept art that was shown. Now, before we wrap things up, let's take a quick look at the progress on the Epic Universe hotels. Now, over at the Stella Nova and Terra Luna hotels, we can see the steady progress on the colorful tiles that will adorn the outside of both of these hotels. Now, there's not a lot of progress on either of these two hotels to report back on. Now, there will be a video coming very soon with more details on these pair of hotels that will cover the amenities, pricing, opening dates, and much more, so be on the lookout for that. But in terms of construction, there's not a whole lot more to update over here. Now, over at the in-park hotel, we do have a lot of progress happening over here that we can see. So in this photo, at the top of the hotel tower, we can see recently added steel framing for the dome peak that is on the center of the tower. You have SurePods, which are modular bathrooms being staged and installed and getting one per room. Now, this is a fantastic view of the dome that will sit on top of the tower and a really unique angle of it. Now, the top of the hotel is going to be a lounge with a semicircle of windows to have a view of the park and probably of the fireworks show that will take place, we're guessing, nightly. And here is the current status of all the rooms that have these modular bathrooms installed. As you can see, they're the ones that have the white wrapping around them. Now, over in the park's hotel pool and recreation area, we can see more progress in the pool bar area and the beginning phases of a pair of pools. The pool bar will be situated between the two pools, as you can see here. Now, thinking along the lines of a nightly show for guests, I'm going to assume the in-park fountain is going to be part of it, but we could see projections on the park hotel tower like what they do over at Magic Kingdom, how they project things onto Cinderella's castle along with the fireworks show, and what Universal does with Hogwarts as well. Also, the peninsula behind the hotel seems like an ideal area to shoot off fireworks from as well. Obviously, we will have to wait and see what they end up doing, but to me, that makes a lot of sense and I think would make for a really neat show if you had fountain elements, projection elements onto the hotel, and fireworks. All right, well, that's going to do it for this Epic Universe construction update. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel before you leave, as we will be doing more Epic Universe updates, land previews, and helpful videos to help you have the best time when visiting Universal Studios and or Disney World. And head over to the Capture the Magic podcast, where we dive into Universal and Disney World in much greater details with tips, reviews, news, and more. You can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and also here on YouTube over at CTM Podcast. So what do you think about the entrance portals to each land that Epic Universe is utilizing? Do you like the idea? Do you not like the idea? Let us know in the comments. And until next time, we will see you in the parks.